Are you ready?
Let's go.
Now circling in the neutral zone.
Here's the pitch on the way. 36 yards for the win.
This.
Here comes a big chance. The shot.
Is
this the dagger?
The neutral zone.
Home run.
This is as good as it gets.
Now, here's your host, two-time Paralympian, Brock Richardson.
What's going on? It's time for another edition of The Neutral Zone. I am indeed your host, Brock Richardson. Coming up on today's program, we release part 2 of my interview with former Boccia Canada physiotherapist Lisa Minton-Corbeil. In part 2 of this interview, we talk about her decision of stepping down and what went into that, and some of the favorite places she has visited, and the memories that she has had with athletes. Plus, the panel will discuss the importance of having a close circle, in particular when it comes to parasports. We'll do that and a little bit of mainstream sports later on in the program. I'm joined by Claire Buchanan and Cam Jenkins. Here comes your headlines.
Neutral Zone headlines.
Do you want to bring a major international parasport event to your city? World Para Ice Hockey is accepting bids to host events during the 2026 to 2030 cycle, including World Championships and development camps. There are no hosting fees, and financial support from World Para Ice Hockey is open to all countries, even those without a national team currently. The deadline to apply for a bid is November 1st, 2025. If you would like more information and to receive a bid package,
the Cruisers Sports Multi-Sport Try-It Day is back. The one-stop shop where you can try all the different sports Cruisers has to offer. This event is free and no experience is necessary. All ages are welcome and all equipment will be provided. While the organization will prioritize individuals with a physical disability in trying the events first, family and friends of the members are more than welcome to join and try, as well if time equipment permits. In their efforts to be more inclusive of our diverse population in the GTA, on-site interpreters can be made available to assist any participants and or their family members if English is not their primary spoken language. If an interpreter is required, please complete the registration form ASAP and indicate which spoken language is requested. The registration deadline is August 13th, and if you have any questions, please contact Lisa Myers at paraathletics@cruisers-sports.com.
Every Tuesday, the Toronto Blue Jays home games are considered Looney Dog Tuesday. Last week, they set a new record of hot dogs being sold at the game of 84,731. So I asked the panel, if you were to go to a Looney Dog Tuesday evening, how many hot dogs could you consume? Now, before I get your answer, I'll tell you that I have heard that they are the smaller version of the hot dog. So it's not like they're foot long, they're kind of miniature version, if you will. Claire, let's start with you. How many hot dogs would you consume on Looney Dog Tuesday?
I mean, I would like to say that I'd be able to do like the 9 dogs, 9 innings, 9 beers challenge, but 2 is probably my limit.
Ooh, I didn't even know that was a challenge. That sounds like a good challenge. However, in my golden age, I think I'm with Claire. I could only do 2 hot dogs, so I don't think I could do any more than that. And maybe 3 beers, but depends on how big the beer would be.
Damn, is that what it is? It's an age thing? Is that where I'm at?
Oh, no, I'm just saying I'm at the age thing. You're still a young pup. You can go like there's no tomorrow. So I'm surprised you can only need 2, Claire, to be quite honest with you. I thought, you were the type of person that could do the 9 dogs and 9 beers and 9 innings, but I don't know, your crown's looking kind of crooked now to me. So that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, if you were asking like 25-year-old Claire this question, you'd be closer to that goal, but I'm rounding 38 right now.
Oh, 38, that's nothing. Come on.
Yeah. For me, I could probably do 4 hot dogs. I feel like that would be my limit to which I would be able to do. I know that doubles my panel. I know Cameron said maybe 3. I'm not a big beer person, so I would never touch the 9 beers, but you know, a challenge is a challenge. So there you go. That's what our panel would contribute to a record-setting night. It would be 6 or 7 hot dogs at most would be what we would all contribute to that. Those are your headlines for this week. If you want to get a hold of us on social, here's how you can do that.
And welcome back to the Neutral Zone broadcast booth.
Play ball!
We're set to get this bowl game underway. The first pitch is brought to you by Brock Richardson's X account at Neutral Zone BR.
Strike!
Pitch and a strike. Hey, gang, why not strike up a chat with Claire Buchanan from the Neutral Zone? Find her on X at Neutral Zone CB. There's a swing of the chopper out to second base, right at Claire as she picks up the ball, throws it over to the first base for a routine play.
Out!
And fans, there's nothing routine about connecting with Cam and Josh from the Neutral Zone at Neutral Zone Cam J and at J Watson 200. Now that's a winning combination.
Today, we release part 2 of my conversation with former Boccia Canada physiotherapist Lisa Minton-Corbeil. In this conversation, we talk about her decision to step away from the program, and we also talk about some of her favorite memories while being with the program. Please enjoy the interview. Yeah, it's a busy time having lived that life with you for just under 10 years of time. It's a busy life, and it's, you know, your life kind of changes and you got to go back to real life, and it happens all really quickly on people. With so many classifications within the sport, and the 4 that we talked about for international, with your role, how challenging is your role with so many disabilities within the sport, and how do you manage that?
So you're right. There's a variability within our athlete pool around conditions, like sort of medical conditions, neurological conditions, impairments, and capacities. So there's 4 specific classifications. Your BC1, BC2 include diagnoses of the central nervous system injury, so a cerebral palsy, a brain injury, and they're acquired either at birth or later in life. And then the other 2 one classification, BC4, are the non-brain injury. So it could be spinal cord injury or neuromuscular disorders, or sort of an orthopedic / neuromuscular rare disorder called arthrogryposis. So those are the type of diagnoses. So the neuromuscular diagnoses are progressive. They're the only group that would be considered progressive. And then the BC3 is a combination of all diagnoses, but that are ramp players, that they don't have the ability to throw within the field of play. And all 4 groups are in some form of mobility, adaptive mobility aids, and all of them are in wheelchairs to play the sport. So the BC2s and the BC4s tend to be in sort of a mixture between a motorized and a manual wheelchair, depending on the severity of their impairment. And some of our BC2s have the ability to sort of stand and transfer or take some steps with a walker or with assistance, whereas our BC1s, BC4s, and BC3s tend to need the most amount of assistance with any type of transfers and self-care. And so the balance is really, like, I find like the human condition is a spectrum. So even though there's these really, you have to tailor each of your plans and programs according to each person's need, no matter what, certainly within that spectrum, you can sort of adjust to what they need. And so for me, it's that level of understanding of all the differences, but also of all the similarities within humans and what our needs are and what our foundational needs are and what that looks like. So I did find, because neuromuscular conditions are more of a rare condition, that I was really privileged to work in those children's rehabilitations environment, to have more exposure to seeing rare conditions and understanding, I guess, the trajectory of their lives and the conditions themselves, and working and studying with the professionals in those areas. So that does help. But it's within the spinal cord injury group, I did do incomplete spinal cord injury rehabilitation through the Holland Bloorview regional program. And so that gave me a lot of insight into those athletes as well. But I still feel like, from no matter who I'm seeing day to day, whether it be an athlete or a non-athlete, whether it be someone with full abilities or larger challenges, it's just really adapting to exactly what they need to be the best they can within their bodies. So does that explain it a bit, or lead to more questions?
It does. No, it does. I mean, it's literally a mixed bag. And I think what I take away from what you're saying is that you really have to take the individual for where they're at. And you started this conversation with talking about that very thing. And I think that you did very well on that role and kind of understanding the athlete. And when we would go over into your little corner, that you would set up for a training camp, it would be like, what are you dealing with now? What can I help you with? Because what you're dealing with now and what you're dealing with later can be two very different things. So yeah, I think it would.
So, and I guess it looked different than outside the competitions, because that's why I loved being more part of the planning and the influencing of the training with, and being involved with the coaches a little more, just reducing, because the biggest thing I can recall this when I first started, is that there was this attitude within, like, and it's an innocent, like, non-intentional attitude, but when we don't have a complete understanding of disability in some way, shape, or form, we make these assumptions. And so the assumption was, in general, even within the athlete community, that because you have a severe disability, the norm is you're going to be in pain. The norm is you're always going to hurt when you throw. The norm is you throw not in a perfect way, so that means that's just a guarantee that you're going to be in pain. And so to me, that had to stop in a way, and still does in general within the population as well, that sort of, well, it just comes with it and we're not going to deal with it because it's just part of the big picture. And I think really saying, no, there's a way to help every human being harness healing within their body, maximize their mobility without injury, and manage, pain over long-term and short-term. And so part of my role outside of those day-to-day in the tournament, although as part of my role within the competition, was certainly changing that approach outside of it, and sort of how can I support that within the entire community and within athletes that are far away from me too. Like, how can I connect them with resources that would help them, another physiotherapist, and so on. And also to really say, hey, no, if you're in pain, you let us know, we're going to figure this out. And so no matter when that happened, whether it be in the competition or outside, I think that was a big part of that role as well.
So we sort of got the appetizer of Lisa's role as a physiotherapist with the program, and now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes. As I mentioned off the top of the interview, you recently announced that you are stepping down from the program. Can you walk me through the process and what led up to this decision? And the $1 million question is, why now?
Wow. I mean, I think it's been a process, everybody has individual goals within their lives and within their careers and in their relationships and within their families. And I just feel like I've been so privileged I wasn't ready to step away completely after Rio. I really wanted to keep connected with Boccia through classification. And then at one point when I came back in 2019, I was like, I'm really ready to come back and see what else I can do within this environment and within these athlete groups and just be excited about, what's possible. And and be a part of this huge world community and be able to travel to these beautiful places and some of them not so beautiful, but just all wonderful. So I feel like on a list of, goals, I was able to accomplish really and like check them off. I was able to go to Rio Paralympics, came back, was planning on going to Tokyo, but there was some issues with the number of accreditations that we could take with us to Tokyo due to COVID restrictions. So I unfortunately had to support from a distance, but we had wonderful support within the CPC group in last minute that took over. And then luckily through all those experiences, we were able to build the case to really have that full on one-on-one in-person support at Paris. So I feel like, Paris was my pinnacle and everything else was, icing on the cake afterwards. And I made big moves in my life. I do work full-time on the side. I had to sort of make some choices around space and balance within my energy levels. And like we described earlier, the travel can be quite intense, even though it's really enjoyable. It also takes a lot of energy and from everyone, including athletes. And so when I just decided that I needed some space to reestablish my family routine and my family time and some next steps within my career back at home. And and just take that opportunity now. And I knew it was a new cycle for LA. And there's a lot of prep over these in the back behind the scenes. We don't see all the behind the scenes, but behind the scenes, there's a lot of planning and preparation over 4 years. And, routines and things that we want athletes to maximize and get used to. And I felt like if I pulled out, closer to that end of that, goal of LA, I think it'd feel a little more unfair for the athletes at that time. And it's sort of a nice time to reintegrate a new professional and add some new dynamics and energy to the team. But it's really, it's really that sort of personal step back that I needed to create some space in order to have some different opportunities and some more time back at home. But it's just an ebb and a flow type of thing. It's more of a chapter that I feel accomplished in, and I wanted to sort of end on a high, and I had to balance also some basic life things that everybody has to balance too back at home.
And when I first met Lisa, her kids were young, and they're not young anymore.
But you still want the time with them. It's unbelievable. Yeah. So I think that was part of the reason too I stepped away in 2016 because my kids were really little then too. I needed a bit of a travel break and a work break. And now they're much older, but you still desire that time with them because you also see the time fly by even quicker. So yeah,
for sure. What was your favorite part about the role, and what will you miss?
Oh my God, those are good questions. Okay, so obviously my favorite part, and the reason why I was there was for the athletes, just working that one-on-one. What can we do together to make this goal that you're trying to achieve happen, and what's possible. And so, and then the witness part, I was witnessing resilience and I loved the humor and, the inclusion and the acceptance. It just felt like everyone could just be in their place and be who they were. And so I think to me, that was the favorite part of this role, and just seeing what's possible within situations where people would consider it impossible. So to me, that was my favorite part. I love the friendships, the team camaraderie, the connections, and just that meeting people from all over the world, this global family of really qualified professionals, caring assistants, incredible athletes with incredible life stories, just the life stories. I'm just always so interested in people's stories. I get to hear stories every day through my work. And, but these were adventurous. These were travel adventurers. They were unforgettable memories. And even some of the craziest hardest memories, like our hardest situations we were in, sometimes we were so fatigued, we just couldn't help but laugh at like, what the heck is going on here? So like, there was just something about those experiences that, make this really strong impact on my life and my memories. So I can't pick favorites, but it's the athletes for sure.
Yeah. What was your favorite destination to travel to?
Oh, wow. That's an easy question. Although we traveled a lot of places. I can tell you my least favorite afterwards. But my favorite is by far Paris. Like Paris, like I said, was the pinnacle. There, you couldn't even have too high of expectations. It was just, they blew them away no matter what. The organization, the beauty, the place, the event, that was something to experience. And so I have to, like, it's up there. It's up there. There's no doubt. I had the chance to go to Brazil so many times. So Brazil, and it's like my second home, my second family. And my first one was actually quite memorable too, just because it was my first. It was in Kansas City. Toronto, because it was home. Like I have too many, but I'm going to definitely put Paris on the top.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised that that'd be your answer, but I think it's cool that Kansas City being your first, and I was there in Kansas City.
Yeah,
I remember that trip. We tried to go to a Kansas City Royals game, and it couldn't get enough tickets for everybody. But
you know what we ended up doing? This is a funny, stupid story that probably isn't true, but it's funny. Dave wanted to go to. He was this huge fan of the Kansas City Chiefs, and back then, like, I don't think they ever won anything. But for some reason, he's from Montreal. He was a fan of the Kansas City Chiefs. So we tried to go to the Royal Stadium. It was closed. And then we went to the Arrowhead Stadium. And it was like 4 or 5 of us with Dave. And we kind of went to the front. And it's like empty because the season was going to start the week later. And we got a tour of the stadium. And not only did we get a tour of the stadium, they let us go throw footballs on the field before they had put like the paint strips down. And they gave us a tour, and then they gave us this lot. Like we were in this this room where it was like this huge movie theater, and then they had this special screen presentation of like the history. And at the end, it almost felt like a bit cult-like because they were saying, "You bleed the blood of the Kansas City Chiefs," and you're like, I think they're trying to brainwash them. But after that, I swear to God, that's when they started winning. So it's our good luck on the field, the throws we did the week before, that got them on their winning streaks later on. That's what our theory is.
As a Bills fan, I wish you never got them on that streak. But we are where we are with this, Lisa.
That's what I tell my children anyway, and they're like, yeah, Mom, believe what you want to believe.
Yeah. See, they're older now, so they can have that attitude. What is the thing that you learned about yourself that you would not have learned but for this role that you were so privileged to be on with Boccia Canada?
Yeah, that's a really deep question. Okay. Yeah. So, what have I learned? I just realized I could do more than I thought I could. Like, it's amazing what you can accomplish and what you can do from a physical and mental perspective. But I just learned, I really learned how to listen, and that, and what patience was, and what also I felt like the athletes were adult voices for some of the children I served during some of my career, because not all children have their own voice when they're really young within the disability community. And I felt like they were their voices, so I could advocate more for them. Because I know a lot of the disability community can actually have some really bad experiences early on in life and through their childhood, which affects them significantly through their life. And our job is to do no harm, right, through those years. And some of it has been harmful. And so just to have that voice from you guys for them I think was really impactful, and to me and to my career. And that's what I learned a lot from.
Yeah. I've had to be the voice for people in the community when a parent comes up to me and says, would you put your child in jeans? And I go, oh God, don't do that to your child. No, please. They bunch up and it's ridiculous. I was at African Lion Safari, and someone who was a nonverbal was really having a day, and the parent came up to me and said, I have a question for you. And I said, what's that? And she said, my daughter really doesn't like getting into jeans. And I said, oh, I can explain why. And I told her, and she was very grateful. But it's those moments like that you realize somebody has to be the voice to the people that don't have the same level of voice that others do. And so we have to use it in a good manner. And I think that's really great that you said that. Lisa, I have to honestly say we're pushing 40 minutes, which I'm totally fine with. You're supposed to be working, so I understand. But I've got a couple of little things I just want to say. First of all, about 3 weeks ago, and I'd have to go back to actually date this, but about 3 weeks ago from the time of this recording, because we'll be doing this sometime in June when this will be airing, we talked about when I had a concussion, and I talked about the routine that I had to go through of being tipped on one side, back to the center, tipped on the other side, and then I vomited. Well, this woman that you're hearing the voice of, she was the one that said, let's try this and see if this will help you, because sometimes, concussions can be somewhat not solved, but managed with this exercise. And I threw up on the mat, and Lisa said, I don't think he needs to throw balls anymore today because I just made him vomit. So I think he'll just go and sit on the side, and we'll revisit. So Lisa is the woman that did that for me, and that's what made us learn that I had a concussion, wasn't it, Lisa?
Well, so I'll explain it a bit more. But yes, because it was the day that it had happened, or was it within that week? I'm trying to remember.
It was within the week. Yeah, it was within the week.
So you weren't sure if you actually had a concussion with it. And I said, so what it was I believe it was the aptly maneuver. And so, because I said, sometimes you can get this sort of, because it wasn't clear whether you had a bit of a whiplash or a concussion. And I said, sometimes you can get this sort of vestibular, that dizziness that you're talking about related to a vestibular crystal symptom, but it also will identify whether or not things are really off from that standpoint too. And so it's a maneuver that you can just sort of move from one side to the other with your head turned one way. And I said, wow, after you threw up, I said, there is no question here that you have a concussion, mister, in a sense, because there was other things going on as well. Certainly maybe something vestibular happening, but it was more related to your concussion at that time. But yeah. Oh, damn. Yeah, and I did say to you, some people, it makes them really nauseous. Do you remember that?
Yeah. I was one of those people. Putting my hand up for those people on the pod, but I was one of those people that I was nauseous. But Lisa is the one that accomplished that for me, and talked about it 3 weeks ago, and from the time of this, and it's a good time. Lisa, I wanted to take an opportunity to really, I guess the truth of the matter is, speak from the heart, and I'm going to speak from the community. And I wrote at the bottom of my script, I'm tearing up as I'm writing this, and who knows what's about to happen as I do this. But Lisa, from 2009 onwards, you have changed my life, this community's life. Without you, none of us would be where we are. I know that you opened your door of your own home to me when I was going through some massive struggles prior to the Paralympics in 2012. And without you, I don't think I would have been able to go to those games, between the concussion, between the challenges I was having. So on behalf of the community, I want to thank you for all the time that you dedicated to us and traveling, because without you, this program would not have been where it has now, and it certainly will not be the same in the future. So thank you very much from the bottom of all of our hearts in the community. I know a lot of people from Boccia Canada listen to this, so just thank you for all that you did.
Okay, first of all, you're going to make me cry. And I'm really touched. I truly am touched, Brock, that you said that. And my hope is that through all those years, there's been a lot of learning, right? And that I've been able to be that teacher as well within that community. And you guys can use your big voices for not only the Boccia community, but for the disability community as well within that. And but God, it's been a privilege, and I'm really proud of the work we've been able to do together along this journey with all the athletes. And I don't know, I get to carry these beautiful memories too. It was very cathartic and therapeutic to sort of go through this with you and really talk about my experience. So thank you for this opportunity. And it's not a goodbye. I'm very passionate about the sport. I'm going to be their biggest fans for sure. I'll be tuning in. But yeah, I'm just proud of what we built together. And I do think it'll, everyone can influence this sport over time. And hopefully and I've seen the changes. There's been some big changes over the years. And so it's nice to witness, and it's not all my influence. There's been some really brilliant work done within the IST community and the coaching and the management. So it's just, I'm just glad that I was a part of it and that you gave me this chance to talk about it too.
Yeah, and I want to just say to the audience, when Lisa talks about it, being a 12 to 16 hour day, she's not kidding. This is, it's literally what it is. And people in the parasport community need to dive all in, because if you do things in the wrong way, you could really, affect someone. I was going to use a really bad word there, but you could really affect someone in their future. So the dedication that it requires to spend, 15 years, 16 years, to do that, it takes a lot of time. When you have adorable kids like she does, all that is part of it. And I can remember, laying on a mat in London in one of the communities, and her children were very young, and both the children were up at my head while mommy was stretching me, and they were just talking away, and I'm like, this stretch hurts, and I don't want to talk right now. But Maxim and Ella, you guys were the reason why I was able to get through some of those stretches, because if it wasn't for you guys talking to me at your young age, I probably would have kicked your mother somehow. So either way, it happened.
You're supposed to tell me, bud.
But sometimes you'd say, well, you're supposed to feel it. I feel it. Yeah, this is good. So Lisa, thank you so much, and congratulations on all the success you had, and best of luck in your future and continued success.
Thanks so much. You too, Brock. Proud of you.
So over the past 2 weeks, we've heard two parts of the interview that I did with Lisa Minton-Corbeil. And I wanted to take some time and just talk about the value of support staff, particularly when you're playing parasports. And I'll start this conversation. For me, I spent a lot of time with Lisa. And Lisa, as I mentioned in the interview just there that you heard, Lisa was one of the very few people that actually acknowledged something that I was trying to get out to the coaching staff, that I just didn't know how to get it out to them in an appropriate way. And the thing that I'm talking about is towards the end of my career, my muscles really in my shoulder began to fail me, and I had trouble releasing the bocce ball, and I was telling people who were saying, it's all mental, and I was telling them, no, I think there's something physical, and they'd say, do more mental preparation. That's all it'll take is more mental preparation. Well, Lisa was one of the people that actually told the coaching staff that she believed that it was more than just mental. And fast forward about 7 years since I've been outside of the bocce community, at least from a athlete perspective, I still have trouble throwing, even at an arcade if I'm playing arcade games. And so one of the things we chatted about off the interview was just my appreciation for her and the fact that she, stood in the gap and sort of not defended me, but went to bat for what I was saying. And people like that you really appreciate in your circle. And I wanted to have a conversation with you guys. Let's start here. What are your general thoughts of support systems? Doesn't matter what level of parasports you play, whether it's high level, recreation, grassroots, whatever it is. What is your thoughts on a good support system? Let's start with Cameron on this one.
Support system is absolutely everything. Whether you're just doing the grassroots sports up to the Paralympic level, they help you do a lot and get you ready, to play the game. Whether it's coaching staff or, as you go up through the higher levels, if it's available to you, having psychologists, having massage therapists, having all of those team doctors, support helps you get through everything. And even if you're at the grassroots of the sports, still some people, especially with disabilities, they still use their support people, and go to physiotherapists anyway, or they go to doctors anyway, to try to, just for day-to-day life, be able to function. So support staff, I think is so important. And I think probably one of the most important is mental health. As you both know, I'm huge on mental health. And I think mental health, having a support person for that to be able to help you through the trials and tribulations, through the anxiety, the depression of what you're going through, is so very important.
Yeah, those support systems they're essential services in my mind. An athlete can't succeed or even stay healthy for an extended period of time, training at a certain level without those supports. And yeah, Cam, you mentioned it with mental health specifically. It's surprising and funny a little bit that people tried to make you think, Brock, that it's just mental. You just push through, and you're just it's the mental game and you'll be fine. And no, we have to take care of our bodies. And yes, at a certain time, age does come into a factor. Like when you look at pro sports, you hit 35 years old and everyone's writing you off like it's the end of your career. And luckily, we don't get that same viewpoint in para sports because I think, we tend to last a little bit longer in age, depending on the sport. But yeah, those services are essential. I don't know where I would be without the mental support that I had during the hardest times I've had in my career, and the numerous massages and physio and injury recovery. I would be a mess. I would be a mess right now. You can't do it alone. You can't do anything alone, and especially at a high performance level.
Yeah, and I think I will put here in this conversation, because I think it's important. I'm not suggesting that my struggles was 100% physical, and I never did suggest that, but it was solely being put on, oh, it's mental, just, close your eyes and visualize, which in and of itself is hard to do. But yeah, there was some physical and mental implications. But I think one of the things years later that I realized, and there's not really any structural damage in my shoulder, it's just, I think, part of my disability, part of the age, part of whatever it is. There's just a lot of factors. And so for me, Lisa really did mean something. She really did mean what she said. And we spent lots of time, outside of the physio table, watching Boccia games or doing things. And I can pick up with Lisa like it was yesterday we spoke. So it really does make a difference in your support system and what they do for you. And there's countless people in my support system that I can think of that if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have been able to get to the level that I got to. For this particular portion, go ahead, Cameron, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Brock, like for them to say, just go to your happy place. Like I sound like I'm Adam Sandler from Happy Gilmore now because it just came out. But like for them to say, just visualize and this and that, like you can't go to your happy place, or if you've gone to your happy place and you're still not throwing well, and if you're hurting or if something's wrong with you physically, like it has to be physical then. Like stop telling me to go to my happy place. And that's just kind of weird.
And I think at times you just realize as an athlete, I'm reaching the end of my road here. And I think for me, I got to the point in 2018, 2019, where I realized I was reaching the end of my road, and I've gotten to the levels I wanted to get to multiple times. And not a lot of people can say that, but I wanted to spend some time here talking about support systems and what they do for us. So in light of that, and I'll start with Claire here, during your time in sports, whether current, past, whatever, was there somebody in your close circle that if you didn't have them, things wouldn't go as well for you in parasports? Who, if you want to name them, go ahead. If not, you want to tell us about it, go ahead. Who for you would be that person?
If I'm thinking kind of down those same lines of the support systems that we have been talking about, Katie Mitchell comes to mind. We've had her on the show a couple times, and she is starting to bring, or has been for a while now, bring a lot of awareness to brain injuries within the para sports world. And she has not only gotten me through like my worst injuries, whether it was concussion related or not, she's always just been someone that I could like bounce ideas off of as well, of like, hey, I'm feeling this way, or like, how do I get here? She has just a wealth of knowledge, not just around injury prevention and then rehab with injury, but just being an athlete. I've always been able to reach out to her, whether it's sports related or life related, because it all intersects, right? Like you can't be an athlete and just play the sport and not have life stuff also affect that. So yeah, definitely Katie Mitchell comes to my mind.
Yeah, for me, I've done it more on the grassroots level, a bit of provincial level. So yeah, like a lot of times, my friend Ryan Bennett, who we've, competed mostly with, I don't think we've competed against one another too often, but we're both sounding boards for one another. And when we're going through situations of playing hockey and, we're asking one another, okay, what could I have done here? What could I have done there? To play better. Because we're a lot alike as far as we're hard on ourselves and we're competitive and we want to get better. So he's certainly been one person. Coaching wise, Ken Hall, he's always been there for me as well. he always knew that I used to get super stressed out over tournaments. So he would always give me an email or a pep talk before I went to the tournament to say, you're good and believe in yourself, and just all positive stuff. And usually the tournaments, that's where as a goalie I showed up and I was the best in tournaments compared to regular season play. So Ken Hall is certainly somebody that has been a support to me as well. And I would say through my playing career and throwing career, those two gentlemen for me has been the biggest influence on me to be a better person and a better player, better thrower.
Yeah, I would agree. And I actually, back when I was like a teenager, I know, Cameron, that you were referred to in the stands as Tournament Cam, in the sense that everybody would know that you're going to stand on your head. And I didn't watch a lot of your league games, but those tournaments, I can concur that you would definitely always show up. So I think that's very good on the part of Ken Hall and Ryan for any part that they had in that. With these kind of relationships, though, sometimes, as Claire mentioned, you can sort of blur the lines, and sometimes it's positive. You can talk about life things. You can talk about all those things. Was there ever moments that you had trouble with your close circle? And if so, how did you overcome that? Let's start with Cameron on this one.
Trouble with my circle. Yeah, you always have arguments or a difference of opinions on things as well. But, I think the sign of a true friend isn't Ryan or a coach is that you can have those arguments or disagreements or debates. And after it's done, you still know that they have your back. Because I think in a lot of ways, a lot of people get into arguments or debates, and they don't know whether or not that person's still going to be a friend or still going to have your back. Because you think having a disagreement means that they're not going to like you anymore or have your back anymore. So, we bicker, we fight, we have arguments, we have disagreements, but at the end of the day, that's just part of life. And you move on, and hopefully you realize that you both have, the best interest at heart of what you think, you need to do to be the best. And two people aren't always going to agree on what's best.
When things are going really well, it's really easy to reach out to your community and your teammates, and those are the easy parts. It's really, really hard, and you have to kind of push yourself a little bit more when you're in those kind of darker, harder moments. And it's hard to sometimes speak up for yourself and say, hey, I'm reaching out because I need help right now. But that's the beauty of sports. And when you have those teammates around you to reach out to, you don't ever really feel like you're alone in it. And then when you do reach out, you realize you're not the only one going through hard stuff as well. So you tend to lean on each other, and you have to be vulnerable, and you have to be able to be kind of genuine and sharing how you're feeling and where you're at, and be really grateful for those who show up for you.
I think that's a great point, Claire, in saying that, you've got to say something, and other people need to say something so you don't think that you're alone, because that is the loneliest thing in the world if you think you're alone. So I wish more people would talk about what they're going through, not to get sympathy, but to provide, or to, more so to get empathy, and more so to let other people know that you're not the only one going through this, and there's somebody else out there if they need you.
I honestly could not have said it any better than the two of you said. Like, for me, you both articulated what it is and what support systems do, and you're right, Cameron, in the sense of the people have to have your back, and they have to, know that you're there through the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think, Claire, to your point about, not feeling alone, even if you're not alone, the darkest place you can be as an athlete, as a person, at whatever level, is that feeling of you're alone. And I think for me, the greatest relationships outside of the one that I spoke about just a little bit ago was the ones with my teammates as well, because those individuals know exactly what it is you're going through. They understand the blood, the sweat, the tears, all the stuff. Coaches can coach, your support system can be a support system, but there's nobody else that understands what you're going through more than your teammates and all of those things, because they are also laying it out on the line as well, Claire.
That's exactly it. And we can dive into the difference between like team sports and individual sports, but you still have that community of athletes around you that are training the same way, going through the same things, and having the same goal that you have as well. So it's really easy to reach out to someone who is has the same kind of lifestyle that you're going through.
One of the things that makes me really truly happy when we get to spend time on this program, and we spend the vast majority of the time, whether it's the interview and the conversation, talking about sports and the stuff that athletes go through. That's the design of this podcast. That's the reason this podcast exists. And the one thing that I'm really proud to say, and some of my panelists may agree more than others, but this panel is a bunch of friends. We have become a bunch of friends. Yes, we do disagree. Sometimes genuinely, sometimes Cameron likes to play the opposite side on purpose. We never really know what side he's on.
Me?
Or not on.
What are you telling?
Yeah, we don't know. But
Balderdash.
That's the beautiful thing. You can have your close circle in whatever it is that you do. It doesn't have to be limited to sports. It can be your friends, the people around you. All those things can be. And I'm proud to say that this podcast has run for just over a decade now, based on the fact that we have had a bunch of friends around the table that can disagree and can say, I don't agree with that. I will put things in our chat group where it's like, okay, I need a consensus. What are we doing with A? What are we doing with B? What's happening? And everybody comes together. So support systems and close circles are really, truly important. Anything else you guys want to add before we move on to a little bit of mainstream sports with the 10 minutes we have left?
I just want to add that we talk mostly about high performance sport. And yes, when you do get to that level, you have access to these support systems like mental health and physio and massage, and it's can be a shiny world for an athlete that isn't used to it. So, but it's good to reach out at any level, whether you're just starting the sport or you're a high performance athlete.
Yeah, I agree. It really is. It's a community that everyone should tap into, regardless of what level you're at. Being an athlete is not an easy thing to do, even recreationally, because recreationally you can really go balls to the wall at trying to get somewhere, and sometimes you just keep hitting the wall, and so even recreationally it can be tough. I want to talk a little bit about something that came out on the day that we recorded this podcast. A couple of things came out on the day that we recorded this podcast, but I don't think we're going to get to both. Let's talk a little bit about the fact that Bryce Harper and Rob Manfred apparently got into some words. And the story goes that apparently Rob Manfred and Bryce Harper of the Phillies got into some words over the salary cap. And Bryce Harper told the commissioner, Rob Manfred to get the F out of the clubhouse. Now, one of the things that our colleague Josh Watson put out there was that this signifies to him that Bryce Harper wants to make as much money as possible, which I tend to agree with. But do you think this was for Bryce Harper, or do you think this was a situation where Bryce Harper felt he was going to bat for his teammates in the MLB as athletes? Let's start with Cameron on this one.
I think that Bryce Harper was, rooting for or obviously not wanting a salary cap, but that really only affects the ones that are making the most money, like a Bryce Harper or Vladdy Guerrero or other ones that I can't think off the top of my head, Soto, Shotani. It really only affects those people. When you look at the other players, like, they're not making, relative to me they are, but they're not making like a whole whack of money. They're making maybe on a 4-year deal, $5 million a year, maybe a little bit more than that. Like, it's only the superstars that are making the gobs and gobs and gobs of money. And the other ones are making like, and it's still not a kick in the can, but like $120 million. At the end of the day, the MLBPA and all the players who they represent, they don't want a salary cap, because then that will put the kibosh on the highest people getting paid more money. And that's what the owners are trying to do, is to stop that. They're saying that they want to be able to stop, they want to stop player salaries rising, because it's not fair when you have a team that can only afford a $60 million payroll or $70 million payroll, like the Florida Marlins have, or maybe it's the Rays or Pittsburgh Pirates. Like, pick one of those teams. And then you have other teams like the Jays. What are they paying? Like $238 million for their payroll or whatever it is. Like,
first in the American League, baby. Like, that's all that matters.
First place, baby. Let's talk about that. But there's such a huge disparity there that they've got to do something. So, like, going into day one of the 162 games, the Pittsburgh Pirates don't think, okay, well, we ain't going to win a damn thing. We're just going to be in last place again. Like, they got to do something.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. Claire?
Yeah, this kind of steers off even salary cap conversations, and more so, how can we evenly disperse money around the league so that, and like in my dream world, sports in all leagues would have even spending across every team in the league, and you see what we do with it, and it's really disappointing in my eyes to see such a disparity in how much money each team in the league has to spend on players. And it's, when it comes down to it, I mean, you're going to be able to get the better players when you have the most money, right? So it's, again, echoing, we're number one in the league right now, and we're spending it too. So, but the fact that athletes like Bryce Harper have the confidence, I would say, to speak up to a commissioner like that, it's always astonishing to me to see that across sports, where you see your like LeBron James can have input on who they bring in, because he's LeBron James. And remember when Ron Artest thought that it was okay to jump into an audience and start punching fans. Like, it's these players that think that they have a little more, like, their leash is a little longer than others. And I would hope that a comment like that from Bryce Harper comes from a place of, I want to make sure that all of my teammates are getting as much money as they deserve. And it's not coming from a place of, I already make more money than a lot of you guys in the league, and I want to continue to do that. And it come from like a selfish place. But yeah, it's always really funny to me to see athletes so outspoken to people who have a lot of power within their sport.
And it's sports. So, like, it's a different ball game. If this was a corporate environment and Bryce Harper did something like that, he would get written up so fast if he was talking to, like, the president of the company or maybe even booted out. Like, his head would spin. So
his contract would be lit on fire.
Yeah, 100%. Like, breach a contract for swearing at I don't know how they would do it, but they would do it. And it's just a different world with the sports world and the corporate world. So you can't compare the two. And it doesn't surprise me that this happened. And I'm sure it's happened a bunch of times too. We just don't hear about it.
Yeah. John Paul Morosi was the first that broke it, which I don't think surprises many people. And then Kelly McDonald broke it to me, and I was like, "Pardon? This happened?" And then I went looking on X, and it was like, "Oh my God, this happened." Claire, I have to get this in the podcast because what you said earlier in our group chat was killer. I asked the group, I said, would other people do that, or is this a Bryce Harper thing? And you said to our group, the best thing. What did you say?
I called it the Bryce Harper loophole. And that's not only for Bryce Harper either. That's across all sports. Some athletes just, like I said, have kind of a longer leash to be able to say things like that. And kind of do things their own way. Remember the practice interview from Allen Iverson? Like, he thought he didn't have to show up for practice because he's that good. Practice? What's practice? I don't have to go to practice. I'm Allen Iverson. I just won the scoring title. Yeah, it's
different. I
love when athletes do this.
Yeah.
I mean, I do get the fact that it's, you got to stand up for what you believe is right in life, but there is a point you're not going to do that in the corporate world. You just know that there is a line to which that you would draw, and I think, Cameron, you're absolutely correct in saying that. Does it make it right or wrong? Not necessarily. It's just the reality of where we are, and I think, Bryce Harper said what he had to say, and that's fine. I do just want to mention, because I really only have one thing to say on this, and I'll open it up for either of you to respond. But Jonathan Clase, the closer for the Cleveland Guardians, has been placed on paid leave because he's under investigation as part of a betting scandal, if you will. For me, I think this is a situation where we've seen enough about this betting in sports. I would hope that in 2025, you would learn that we can't do this anymore. Athletes and individuals in the game just keep getting caught in doing this thing. We know nothing about the investigation aside from the fact that it's happening. He cannot come back until at least the 31st of August. He was a huge trade piece on the trade market that is no longer. Comments from either of you? I don't even know who to throw it to, so I'm just going to shut up and just let somebody respond.
It's sad that this is still happening and athletes are still betting on their own sports. But it's also sad that we've gotten to a place where athletes are coming into a sport and not respecting it the same way that they did growing up. It's sad to see that kind of like respect for the game fade away and turn into situations like this.
Yeah, like they must have some good evidence against him, I would think, if they're going to keep him out until the 31st. Because what happens, and that's the 31st of August, I believe.
Correct, yes.
They have him out. So they must have some pretty good evidence to like keep him out until August 31st. Because what happens if they find out that there was no wrongdoing and the Cleveland team ends up missing the playoffs by like a game or two, and maybe because there's two people from Cleveland that are currently, not playing because of this quote unquote scandal. So what happens if, like a game or two, they miss the playoffs by, they're found not guilty, and they could have been helping their team for the past month? I just kind of wonder, like, how they judge those things, or how they, go about saying, okay, well, you're off for 30 days or whatever the case is. So that's the interesting part to me. And if they didn't, well, the rules are the rules. Don't do it. And you did. And I guess that's easier to say because gambling is an addiction. But they're going to need help. And if they want to, it's easy for me to say, well, you're making millions of dollars. And why are you gambling? Because now you're having to give up those millions of dollars if you end up, getting blackballed by Major League Baseball. But it's an addiction. So I don't know too much about that. And but it seems silly to bet and possibly lose your career over it when you're making millions of dollars.
I'm not saying this in the least to be crass or to be rude or to be funny, but ask Pete Rose how that ended up. Like, Pete Rose was among the more successful managers in Major League Baseball and literally had to pay his life for it because he could not be involved in baseball. He's finally inducted into the Hall of Fame, but it's only because he was banned for life, and then his life ended, and then they said, okay, well, now we'll do it because they understand what he did. But you have a literal piece of evidence in front of you that says you should not do this. I agree with you 100%, Cameron. This is more than just some person trying to beat the system. This is an addiction, and none of us can speak to that in this group. But I would just think to myself, man, you see so many examples time after time of situations like this in different sports, and it doesn't end well for people. And I just question why it continues to happen. And the only real answer is it's because it's an addiction, and there needs to be help beyond just don't do this, because clearly that doesn't work. What does work now is that's the end of our episode for this week of the Neutral Zone. We will be off for the civic holiday, so there will be no episode next week, but we'll be in touch very, very soon. And we always appreciate your loyal listenership, and we'll be back again soon. Until then, be safe, be well.